Top 10 Most Dangerous Countries in the World. 1. Afghanistan. Afghanistan remains the world's most dangerous country due to ongoing violence, terrorism, and lawlessness. The Taliban's return to power in 2021 reversed human rights gains. Armed groups, including ISIS-K, continue attacks, particularly targeting minorities, women, and journalists. Civilians face routine bombings, executions, and disappearances. Daily life is dominated by fear, especially in urban centers like Kabul. With little to no international recognition of the Taliban regime, law enforcement is unregulated. Public floggings and extrajudicial killings have resurfaced. Freedom of movement, expression, and education, particularly for women and girls, is severely curtailed. Economic collapse has intensified insecurity. Over 90% of Afghans live below the poverty line. Hunger and unemployment push many into dangerous activities or displacement. Drug trafficking and smuggling networks thrive, adding to widespread instability. Families often depend on illegal or risky means of survival. Ethnic tensions between Pashtun, Hazaras, Tajiks, and Uzbeks remain volatile. ISIS-K specifically targets Hazara communities in brutal suicide bombings and raids. Local power struggles add to the already fractured national landscape. The absence of judicial fairness escalates tribal and sectarian conflicts even more. Foreign interventions have waned, leaving a security vacuum. Airstrikes have ceased, but drones still monitor terrorist camps. Without international oversight or aid, the country remains a haven for extremist groups, creating regional and global threats. Afghanistan's instability echoes far beyond its borders. 2. Yemen. Yemen is gripped by a complex civil war that has devastated the nation since 2014. The conflict between Houthi rebels and the internationally recognized government has drawn in regional powers like Saudi Arabia and Iran. Bombings, sieges, and starvation tactics have killed thousands of civilians. The humanitarian crisis is unparalleled. Over 23 million people need urgent assistance. Airstrikes, shelling, and landmines leave children and families in constant danger. Food, medicine, and clean water are scarce. Cholera outbreaks and malnutrition are widespread. The country is on the brink of collapse. Houthi-controlled regions face strict religious and political enforcement. Public dissent is crushed. Journalists disappear. Women's rights have regressed dramatically. Armed militias recruit child soldiers. Drones and missile attacks on cities like Aden and Sana'a create an atmosphere of constant fear. Tribal divisions and proxy warfare make peace nearly impossible. Foreign involvement has only deepened sectarianism. Saudi-led coalition bombings often strike civilian infrastructure. Iranian weapons shipments sustain rebel offensives. Each side accuses the other of war crimes, worsening the already fragile situation. Despite intermittent UN peace talks, lasting solutions remain elusive. Ceasefires are routinely broken. With the economy in ruins and basic services absent, Yemen is a failed state where survival depends on luck. It's one of the most dangerous places to be born or live. 3. Syria. Syria's civil war has lasted over a decade, making it one of the deadliest conflict zones on Earth. The Assad regime, with backing from Russia and Iran, continues to fight rebel groups and extremist factions like ISIS. Civilian areas often bear the brunt of bombings. Entire cities like Aleppo and Homs have been reduced to rubble. Airstrikes, chemical attacks, and barrel bombs have killed hundreds of thousands. Millions have fled, creating one of the largest refugee crises in modern history. Those remaining face ongoing terror and repression. Syrian prisons are notorious for torture and extrajudicial executions. Thousands have disappeared in government custody. Meanwhile, in the northwest, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham controls territory with an iron grip. ISIS, though diminished, continues attacks in desert regions and urban centers. Ethnic and religious minorities like Kurds, Yazidis, and Christians face targeted persecution. Turkey's military incursions into Kurdish areas have displaced thousands. In the northeast, the Kurdish-led SDF continues to battle remnants of ISIS while managing massive displacement camps like Al-Hol. With no viable political resolution in sight, Syria remains fragmented and dangerous. Foreign troops, proxy wars, and extremist groups ensure constant instability. The country's shattered infrastructure, broken economy, and divided territory make recovery nearly impossible without massive international intervention. 4. South Sudan. South Sudan is plagued by violence since its independence in 2011. Despite signing peace agreements, conflict between government forces and opposition groups continues. Ethnic rivalries, particularly between the Dinka and Nuer tribes, fuel cycles of revenge killings, ambushes, and mass atrocities in rural areas. Civilians are frequently caught in crossfire or deliberately targeted. Armed militias loot villages, abduct women and children, and destroy crops. The government has been accused of war crimes, including massacres and scorched earth tactics. Displacement is rampant, with over 2 million people internally displaced. The economy is heavily reliant on oil, but corruption and mismanagement prevent development. Inflation is sky-high. Public services like healthcare and education are virtually non-existent. Food insecurity affects over 60% of the population, often leading to starvation and humanitarian emergencies. Flooding, droughts, and climate change compound the suffering. Livestock and crops are frequently lost. Aid workers operate under high risk due to theft, kidnappings, and attacks. UN peacekeepers offer limited protection, and ceasefires are broken regularly by both sides. Without robust governance or rule of law, armed groups thrive. Weapons are easily accessible. Justice systems are ineffective or absent. In many regions, survival depends on tribal affiliations, leading to continued instability and danger across the young, fractured nation. 5. Democratic Republic of Congo. The Democratic Republic of Congo suffers from ongoing insurgencies, political chaos, and humanitarian disasters. Armed groups like M23, Codeco, and the ADF terrorize the eastern regions, committing massacres and rapes. Mineral-rich territories are battlegrounds for militias, warlords, and foreign actors seeking economic control. Civilians face brutal violence, especially in North Kivu and Ituri provinces. Mass killings, beheadings, and sexual slavery are widespread. Women and children are disproportionately affected. Rape is used as a weapon of war. Entire communities have fled, living in displacement camps under dire conditions. Despite peacekeeping efforts by MONUSCO, instability persists. Corruption and weak leadership plague the central government. Armed forces are often complicit in violence. Police and military are underpaid, undertrained, and sometimes support militia activity. Lawlessness remains entrenched in many areas. Health systems are overstretched. Epidemics like Ebola, measles, and COVID-19 have overwhelmed infrastructure. Malnutrition and disease kill thousands annually. Humanitarian aid is obstructed by insecurity and logistical challenges. Access to education and clean water is severely limited for most of the population. The country's rich natural resources, cobalt, gold, diamonds, fuel the conflict rather than prevent it. Illegal mining and smuggling fund armed groups. Foreign interests exploit the chaos. Until security, transparency, and basic governance are restored, Congo will remain one of the world's deadliest nations. 6. Somalia. Somalia is a collapsed state plagued by decades of civil war, terrorism, and piracy. The government holds little authority beyond the capital, Mogadishu. Warlords, tribal militias, and Al-Shabaab insurgents control much of the countryside, enforcing brutal justice systems and waging relentless guerrilla warfare against civilians and officials. Al-Shabaab routinely bombs hotels, government buildings, and markets. Suicide bombers and IEDs are frequent. Foreign peacekeepers and Somali security forces are primary targets, yet civilian casualties remain high. Fear and unpredictability dominate everyday life, especially in southern and central Somalia, where attacks are most common. Basic infrastructure barely exists. Healthcare, education, and public services are almost non-existent in many regions. Access to clean water and electricity is limited. Drought and famine frequently devastate communities. The ongoing humanitarian crisis leaves millions dependent on international aid that often can't safely reach them. Piracy off the Somali coast was infamous in the 2000s. Although it has declined, some criminal maritime activity still exists. On land, clan-based violence erupts frequently. Minor disputes can escalate into deadly battles, often with the support of well-armed militias. Civilians are stuck between rival factions. With no central authority and constant threats from terrorism, drought, famine, and civil conflict, Somalia remains one of the world's most dangerous places. Despite international aid and military missions, instability persists. Generations have grown up knowing only conflict, displacement, and survival under fire. 7. Central African Republic. The Central African Republic (CAR) has been in near constant crisis since 2013. Christian militias, anti-Balaka, and Muslim rebels, Salika, engage in brutal religious warfare. Entire villages are wiped out. Massacres, rapes, and ethnic cleansing are common tactics. Civilians suffer most, often caught between shifting front lines. Despite elections, the government controls only the capital, Bangui, and a few surrounding areas. Rebel groups dominate the rest. Russian Wagner mercenaries, brought in to fight rebels, have been accused of committing war crimes, including executions and torture of civilians suspected of rebel sympathy. CAR's security situation worsens with each year. Peacekeepers are overstretched. Armed groups extort communities, recruit child soldiers, and attack aid convoys. Villagers live in constant fear, hiding in forests or displacement camps. The judiciary is weak, and impunity is widespread. Access to healthcare and education is minimal. Most rural regions lack hospitals, schools, or electricity. Food insecurity and poverty affect over 70% of the population. The agricultural economy has collapsed due to looting and instability. Malnutrition and preventable diseases kill thousands yearly. The international community has largely turned away from CAR. With no strong leadership or development, the nation spirals deeper into violence. Religious division, foreign exploitation, and broken infrastructure make it one of the world's most dangerous and forgotten conflict zones. 8. Sudan. Sudan descended into chaos in 2023 when conflict erupted between the National Army and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF. Fierce fighting in cities like Khartoum has devastated infrastructure. Heavy shelling, airstrikes, and gun battles have killed thousands and displaced millions in just months. Civilians are trapped in war zones. Hospitals are bombed. Markets burn. Families flee or hide indoors for days without food or water. Ethnic cleansing campaigns, especially in Darfur, have resurfaced. The RSF has been accused of atrocities including rape, massacres, and forced conscription. Humanitarian operations have collapsed. Aid workers face kidnappings and targeted killings. Power cuts, looting, and fuel shortages are rampant. Banks are non-functional. Many neighborhoods rely on rainwater and candlelight. Medical supplies are nearly depleted in many conflict zones, worsening suffering among children and elderly. Ethnic militias have joined the chaos. In Darfur and other regions, racial and tribal violence has escalated, particularly targeting African communities. Government control has crumbled. Both the army and RSF ignore ceasefires and international calls for peace. The entire state apparatus is collapsing. Sudan is a full-fledged war zone. Urban warfare, ethnic killings, and famine risk have pushed the country to the brink. The once hopeful revolution of 2019 now lies in ruin, replaced by civil collapse. It is one of the deadliest places to exist today. 9. Iraq. Despite defeating ISIS territorially, Iraq remains unstable. Sleeper cells conduct deadly ambushes and bombings. Iranian-backed militias exert power in many provinces. The Iraqi government struggles to control armed factions. Corruption, sectarianism, and weak governance make daily life fragile and unpredictable in many regions. Baghdad and other cities witness routine protests over electricity, water, and employment. Security forces often respond with deadly force. Explosions and assassinations target politicians, journalists, and activists. Political rivalries often turn violent. Many live in fear of reprisal simply for voicing dissent. Ethnic and religious divisions are ever present. Sunni communities face distrust and exclusion. Shia militias sometimes operate like shadow governments. In the north, Kurdish forces manage their own autonomous region but face tensions with Baghdad and neighboring Turkey, adding to national fragmentation. Economic hardship fuels anger. Unemployment is rampant, especially among youth. Services are unreliable. Foreign investment is hindered by instability. Many Iraqis migrate or send remittances from abroad. Oil wealth is unevenly distributed, and infrastructure remains severely damaged from years of war and corruption. While some regions enjoy relative calm, the broader picture remains grim. Armed groups, foreign influence, and failed institutions create a volatile environment. Iraq's future remains uncertain, with violence always threatening to resurface. The scars of war are deep, and peace remains fragile. 10. Ukraine. Ukraine became a global flashpoint in 2022 when Russia launched a full-scale invasion. Cities like Mariupol, Bakhmut, and Kharkiv have seen relentless missile strikes, artillery shelling, and street fighting. Civilian areas are routinely targeted. Millions have been displaced, and thousands have been killed or injured. Urban life is filled with sirens, bunkers, and fear. Missile strikes can hit without warning. Schools, hospitals, and residential buildings have been destroyed. The Russian army often employs scorched earth tactics. Landmines and unexploded ordnance pose long-term threats, especially in retaken or occupied areas. Frontline zones like Donbass and Zaporizhia are constant war theaters. Soldiers face trench warfare, drone attacks, and artillery duels. Civilians nearby risk being caught in crossfire or targeted by drones. Russian airstrikes sometimes extend far west, reaching cities like Lviv and Kiev. Power and water infrastructure are frequently damaged. Winter is deadly without heating. Blackouts and fuel shortages are common. Humanitarian aid is coordinated with military operations. Foreign arms aid continues, but it cannot fully shield the population from relentless attacks and suffering. Ukraine remains in active war. The threat of nuclear escalation or environmental disaster looms. Peace talks are sporadic and fruitless. The war has transformed one of Europe's largest nations into a battlefield, making it one of the most dangerous countries today. Thanks for watching Buried Truths. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden corners of history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more powerful stories from history's hidden vault. See you in the next video.